All right, let's go.
All right, so like we said before, episode 87, we got a special guest on the line. We got Matt Halfhill, founder of Nice Kicks, staple in the sneaker community. I mean, if you don't know Nice Kicks, I don't know where you've been. Before we even get to interviewing you and talking to you, you know, we appreciate you coming on to our podcast. We've had a few emails and direct messages before, you know, and seems like, you know, a lot has changed, you know, in the sneaker community. And, you know, we just want, you know, there's two things I want, you know, from talking to you. I want, you know, the Nice Kicks Matt, and I want the Matt like he's just talking to the homies. We want your opinions. We want everything. But real quick, I just want to know, because considering, you know, does a founder of Nice Kicks have to click on the Snkrs app and sit on an Adidas splash page for 5 hours?
I actually do. I do. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably the worst person ever at asking for things when it comes to brands. You know, like for shoes, I really don't ever ask. And you know, it's the only time I really do is like if it's something I really want to try out. From, you know, I really need to see like a technology that's different or whatever. And that's, you know, it's kind of more on like the I don't know, on the job front kind of idea. I don't, you know, I go on the Snkrs app just like everybody else. You know, I pay full retail for everything like pretty much everybody else. You know, I am grateful for any gifts that are given to me or hookups, their offers of discounts sent my way, or, you know, shops that I've been rolling with for years, and, you know, they send me the shoe and they don't charge my credit card, and I call them back for, why didn't you charge my card? They're like, it's on me kind of thing. Like, I'm grateful for that. But, you know, I'm just a guy who likes shoes just like everyone else. I mean, I just started a website about it many years ago. Like, that's the only difference, you might say. But I'm just a dude who loves shoes. That's it.
So you take as many L's as the rest of us then?
You know, I've learned to not get into a situation where I'm going to catch so many as I used to. But yeah, I catch them too. You know, and I think that speaks to a problem that we've got with the hype product. I think that there are, you know, I remember this when I had the store in Austin. Like, one of the things that I did with that store was whenever we had a launch product, I posted on the door. Like, we posted out the night before. We posted out a printout of what it was and how many we had of each size. Because my whole thing is, like, I would never want to wait. I wouldn't even want to wait 5 minutes for a shoe that I could never get. Right. Like, our whole idea was, like, wait, people can line up and talk amongst themselves. Like, oh, there are 4 size 10.5, so there's 3 size 11s. And it's like, if there's already 4 guys who wear 10.5, and 3 guys size 11, it's like, go to another mall, go line up somewhere else. Like, don't catch an L here. Like, we want to try to help you here. And unfortunately, I think that, you know, I do know that, like, a lot of retailers actually think it's cool to see a massive lineup outside their store. They like to post the pictures of all these people out there. Like, that's a good thing. First of all, they're not out there for you. They're out there for the shoe that you're selling. So, like, don't pat yourself on the back too much here. And then secondly, like, that's a sea of people who didn't walk away with a positive experience with your brand. Like,
right.
That's not a good thing.
We talked about that.
Well,
I don't know how else to put it.
I think that brings up a good point about social media, where one day a brand or a store is being praised by someone, and you can look the very next day and they're cussing out whoever it is because they didn't get the shoe they wanted. You know what I mean? It's an interesting dichotomy with love and hate between, you know, releases.
Well, I think it's also, too, it's a generational thing, too. Yes. You know, like, I missed out on a lot of shoes lined up and whatnot in my younger years, but the thing was that was how things worked. You didn't always get a trophy because you went and played baseball. You had to win the title to get the trophy. And I think that we have this generational thing where kids are tapping on their phones, and every time you tap on an app, it opens the screen. But when you then go to a lineup and you don't get your way, it starts to become a cry fest, you know, of like, right. This sucks, fuck this store, make more shoes. It's like, well, yeah, if they actually listened to you and made more shoes, then you wouldn't want them because everybody has them. But, you know, like, it's just a thing where people are so trained. I really do blame the phone and instant gratification world that we live in, that when things don't go your way, it's like, you know, time for a riot.
Last week we had talked about it with one of the guys that's always on the podcast, Don. Shout out to Don. He worked Nike retail, and we asked, when you see a line of about 300 people, you don't have 300 pairs of shoes in there. And
and that's why we posted the line. That's why we posted the numbers on the door, so that wouldn't happen.
Because I remember those instances of like when we would have to be outside. It would be like, and I don't know why we stood out there. I remember standing in line being number 101, 100, and still staying in the line because you just didn't know. You had no information of what was going on in your local Nike store. You assumed the Nike store got the most pairs, so when you finally knew you weren't getting a pair, when you finally knew you weren't getting the pair your size, the next goal was to just get a pair in any size.
Trade them, sell them.
Sell them, do whatever. When you couldn't get any pair, the next goal was hop in the car and frantically drive to the next mall, boutique store, anywhere you can. Call anybody to get you anything you could possibly do.
Even if you get one, you still do that. You get one in one spot and try to go get greedy and get another one another place.
And that's a fact too.
Yeah, I mean, we one of the things I remember Greg, store manager, shout out to Greg Grovey, was doing was, when people would ask, like we had registered wristbands and we had the sizes on the wristbands kind of thing when we'd hand them out. Like this is before, Nike did the policy where you couldn't have. This is when we had the midnight launches. So people would come out in the evening or whatever, like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and just want to camp out for a couple hours there than, the overnight thing or the super early morning hours. And that for a retailer was really good because it's like we stayed there the whole time. Like we usually had an event, that night if it was a big enough of a shoe. And like Greg would ask them like, hey, what size you need? And it's like, oh man, sorry, don't have any more of those wristbands. And, they'd ask for, we'd look to see if there's any other available size, nearby. And it's like, oh, no, sorry. But, if somebody asks, hey, can I just get any size? It's not. We'd, kind of say, nah, dude. Leave it for somebody else. Don't just take a size 8, even though you're a size 13, because you're going to try to go flip it or whatever. We really tried to make sure that we gave the shoes to the people who really, were after them to wear and whatnot. And if whatever they can do with that shoe, that's on them. That's fine. They're going to resell it, whatever. But, when we had the direct contact with each customer who's coming up the line, we made sure these shoes were going to be going to the people who were going to wear them.
So, and then in your experience, have you found, obviously there's not a perfect type of release. What's the one you think works best for you?
No, not absolutely. I think that one of the best types of releases is actually the one that we did, where we were on hand when the lineup was forming and you are transparent with your customers about how many you have of each size. And it was first come, first serve, but banded. It was first come, first serve, where if you also, and we checked on the line a couple times too. We told them, we would randomly check the line, about once an hour or so, just to make sure everybody was still there. If you weren't there, we gave you 5-minute grace period or whatever for going to the bathroom or whatever, but you were out of line if you weren't there. And then after that wristband, we then grab a new one and issue it to the next person who wanted it. I think that you need to build relationships with your customers, and right now there's this whole idea of everybody gets an equal shot, which I understand that's great and all, that everybody, quote, gets an equal shot, but you have any idea how many of those sea of human beings outside of a store have not bought one damn thing at that shop in the past year or 2 years? And it's so you have your loyal customers that you're basically saying, oh, you're just as equal as somebody who never shops here. You're just as equal as somebody who's never shops here, uncle who came along just to increase their chances.
Right.
And I think that's a really bad thing that happened when stores started doing that, saying, oh, everybody's equal, everybody's fair. It's wasn't that the whole point of the boutiques in terms of customer service and building a community and an audience and a, network of people who, really fucked with you in a big way? When you just basically said everybody's all equal, you basically said, no matter how loyal you are to the shop, we don't value you the same.
Well, that's something we talked about when Sofrito was here, about those relationships that used to exist back when you had to know somebody or build some sort of rapport or relationship with somebody. I brought up how Black Sheep, when SBs weren't everywhere, I used to always buy from Black Sheep and from that store that used to be in Cleveland. I can't remember the name of it right now. But those are the two places I bought SBs from, and I got I built relationships through emailing with the owners or the managers or those people, and that's how I got shoes. And like you said, like then once it started going to raffles, I couldn't get those things anymore because they had a new system in place, and even though I'd been shopping there for 3-4 years and had that relationship, like it was gone. Even relationships that I have at Foot Locker now with these apps, like there's nothing they can do anymore, even though I've been shopping with them for 10-11 years because it's out of their control now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that social media pressure. Like just like what happened with Tennessee, the coach who was gonna Greg Schiano.
Oh.
Once these sneaker companies and boutiques start feeling this social media pressure to be fair and we never get them and blah blah blah, that's when they have to start focusing on giving everybody an equal opportunity, which does suck. Being that Ryan said a few weeks ago about the possibility, like Nice Kicks having 3 locations. It's still 3 locations, right?
Yeah, there are 3 Nice Kicks.
Is it a possibility, like Ryan brought up a few weeks ago, is that there's just a sneaker boutique saturation? Like there's just, trying to get Yeezys and everything right now, there are so many shops and so many places to get sneakers nowadays. Is that a problem as well? Like, is it take away from the customer experience of certain amounts going to certain places or even having a fair shot really to get them if there's so many options?
Well, since you mentioned this, I do want to clarify for anybody who's listening. I sold retail in 2014. I've not had any involvement with that really since then. It's been operated by another group and whatnot. I receive a royalty off of it, but it's not me. So I've heard a lot of complaints from things, and it sucks because it's like literally hands are tied. I can't do a damn thing about it.
What is this that you're referring to?
The Nice Kick stores.
The shop Nice Kick stuff. So totally different group that's running it.
I didn't know that.
There is I know. So there's a big problem with I feel with retail right now, in that, and I'm it's like there's I hate that I had sold, but I know that it was the best thing for me when I did, because the last thing I want to do is own retail stores for right now personally, and stock and have to operate it the way it's done. But I think that what happened was not long after. You had a lot of energy product. You had a couple things happening. You had brands and retailers I'm talking about big box retailers, getting access to energy product that traditionally was not going into big box stores and mall chain stores, nationwide chain stores. And so that already kind of took away a little bit of the specialness of it. Putting it in the mall, like Yeezys in a mall, like say that aloud. Go back to 2012 and say Yeezys in a mall, and you would think that sounds absolutely insane, right? Mm-hmm. I think Foot Locker had 4 stores that got the Yeezy 2s, and those were like, their 34th Street Foot Locker in Manhattan, and like House of Hoops Harlem, maybe one or like the Beverly Center, some other place, like very, very limited pairs going to the largest purchaser of Nike products worldwide, right? But a lot of brands started putting all these energy products kind of at scale. They're like, oh, this sneakerhead thing is we can make it a big business now. We're just going to make more pairs, put them everywhere. And they put them in a lot of boutiques who were not getting to play in that category before. They were putting a lot of boutique product where it shouldn't have gone, in my opinion. And what that did, unfortunately, a lot of those stores weren't really set up for those kinds of special products and those kinds of special launches. And to me, it kind of made the really special products less special. And also, I don't think that they really, these are not really retailers that build relationships like boutiques did. I think that's the biggest difference between a boutique is that, and just like a regular, mall chain store, urban independent, whatever level you want, is that boutiques have always had the closest relationships with their customers traditionally. That's the very closest relationships with their customers. First name basis, how many customers you walk in, you know them by their first name kind of thing. But in the mall world and the big box retail and all that kind of stuff, you don't that's not really their business model. Their business model is volume, and their business model is numbers. Their business model is sell-through rates over the past 60 days and all that kind of stuff. Boutiques don't even use that language at all. Like it's really just about like making sure Vinny gets his pennies because he was talking about those 8 months ago and he really wanted them. Like that's what boutique world is like versus the other way. So I think that's kind of what happened. And then I think the brands and the big box guys or the big name guys, they really love the energy and hype weekends. They really love the big weekends where all these people were coming down. That was kind of a new thing for them. But I think that now there's too much emphasis put on too few of shoes per year. You know, like it's like if you think about it, like everybody is like if it's not a Yeezy or it's not an Off-White or you know like a handful of other shoes each year, it's like there are a lot of people who don't even want it.
Yes.
Like they just don't want it. You know, I walked in the mall this week and it was kind of sad, like just seeing a ghost town of what was like, you know, what would have been a poppin' mall this time of year. And there's like literally no one. I spent probably 2 hours collectively in between 4 or 5 retail stores of sneaker stores. And I saw one transaction in those 2 hours. And you know, you look at the product and it's like, it's not bad product, but it's not product that I know we've received much talk from the brands about. So if we haven't heard much about it, it just, you know, I know the consumer hasn't.
Well, it also goes back to... go ahead.
Like GR needs to be something special. It really should. They're like, I've always said, like every product can be a great product. It doesn't have to be a collab or limited to be cool. Like growing up, we only had GRs.
Yes.
There was no such thing as limited where I was from for sure.
No quick
but
strikes.
Limited only really became like a category with a marketing strategy, really like in 99 and early 2000s with Nike Quick Strike. Before that, like you know, you didn't make a product limited by design. That was stupid.
I think it goes back to a lot about what you said earlier about, you know, GRs used to be semi-limited and they used to fly. And you walk into a store now and you see Air More Up Tempo sitting there, you see Jordan 5 sitting there, Jordan 1s, like everything sitting there that everybody asked for more of, and now there's more. And just like you said, now nobody wants them. Look, I'm sitting here looking at a pair of shoes that I picked up this weekend at the outlet, the Air Max 2 Up Tempo Quick Strikes, those like olive green suede ones. And it's a Quick Strike shoe, and I bought it at the outlet for $40. Like a Quick Strike wouldn't have lasted longer than 10. Like even a Quick Strike almost is a general release now. Like there's no.
I know. I mean, and that's the other thing too is like also too like you know the word GR like. I mean, I remember just going into Finish Line, getting the dopest Air Max 97s I could buy. You know, like that's all it was. You know, you didn't know different tiers of things, and you know, there was never a stigma of like, oh, that's a GR. You know, like fuck that. It was a shoe. Like, come on, man. But I think it is crazy now. Like, I was at a mall. What was this? This is South Coast Plaza. This is about 1.5 years ago when I lived in Irvine, and I went over there and I saw these kids at the Foot Locker store, which has a House of Hoops in it in the back. And I saw this kid like asking, like pulling an Ultra Boost off the wall and talking to his friend, what do you think? And they're like, what's it flipping for? What's it going for? And like, you know, they were looking at their phones, like checking the price of it. And I asked them like, oh, you guys buying to flip shoes? Like these are just GR Ultra Boost. They're not going to sell too much. They're like, oh no, we're just checking to see if they're selling for more than retail. I'm like, oh, but you're not reselling. Why do you care about what they resell for? They're like, their response was, well, we want to wear a shoe that people think we paid more for than we actually paid.
Oh, well, and
I'm like, fuck, that's the new definition of value. But if you think about it in this Instagram world, you know, where people are flexing for clout and you have your clout fits or doing it for the gram, like it's sad. There are a lot of kids who have this false sense of importance because they have this idea that other people think they paid X amount of dollars for what they're wearing.
It's not even the value in what they're wearing now, and then they put a lot of value into even winning. I mean, there's so many posts yesterday of people posting their email of them winning the Black Cause. Like, it's not enough that you just personally won it. You got to show everybody the email that you won it or lost. It's like you have to receive some sort of attention one way or another. Me, Ryan, and George talk about it all the time. there are people who will wake up in the morning, put a sneaker on, take a picture of it, post it, and go to work. They didn't even wear that sneaker that day. It's just to put on some type of show for an audience that they don't care about you. I mean, I understand, you know, you want to put on a dope outfit and you may take a few pictures that day. I get it. But when you start putting your clothes on the ground, you know, you start putting your clothes on the kitchen floor in a grid, my pants, my shirt, my jacket, my shoes, my socks, and my belt, and start showing people your fit, you've elevated to another realm of I have to be more important than the next man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is you got this generation of kids, and I mean, it's really a big generation now. Like, if you think about it, a high school senior today probably signed up for Instagram when he was in 7th or 8th grade. And the sad part is like his whole teenage life or his whole pubescent life has been, you know, instead of seeking out attention from the opposite sex or, you know, trying to stunt on his own gender, you know, in the halls of school, he's more worried about how many double taps are on a photo of him.
Yeah.
And like that to me kind of shows, you know, like that helps me understand why things have gotten to where they've gotten. And you know, it's sad is what it is.
No, it really is. I mean,
this is something I talked about like before, you know, and I talk about frequently. Like people are like, "Oh, the business is growing," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to collapse really soon." They're like, "Well, what do you mean it's going to collapse? It continues to grow."
Well, let's go to the Sheik then.
But what is the touch point that these kids have that want, like, what is the retroable moment for these kids with shoes?
And that's,
like, there are going to be some who are going to hang around for sure. But like, if you think about it, a lot of kids who have been buying shoes for a while online, you know, they never had that anticipation of finding a store that had the shoe they were looking for, then walking up and, oh my God, they have them. Do you have a size 11? And the guy goes to the back. And it's like literally like the anticipation of how quickly does he come back through that double swing door?
Does he have a box in his hand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have a box in his hand? If he has a box in his hand, is the size label pointed towards you or towards his body? He doesn't want. Like, dude, there's so many things about it.
Does he have two boxes or one box?
Two boxes. If he had two boxes,
two sizes around it or one box?
Because I would say, yo, do you got a 9.5? He bring out a 9. He bring out a 9 and he bring out a 10. Yeah. He'd be like, God dang it, you got to choose. And that anticipation, like you said, is gone. Your anticipation now.
So these kids don't have that moment. Instead, they you know, they paid somebody to cook for them, and then UPS drops a box off on their doorstep 3 days later. Sorry, it's not really a great experience.
No. And
you know, it's like, it's just not. And like, and the thing that was crazy to me is like I saw these these retail brands paying money or sending out product to kids to unbox on YouTube. And I'm like, you guys are literally telling the masses that it's cool to not go to your stores anymore. It's much cooler to open boxes in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Like, you are doing that. You don't realize that, but that's what you're doing. You're telling these kids, like, don't go to Champs, Foot Action, Finish Line, Foot Locker, and have a shopping experience. It's like, hey, look what came in the mail today. Slice it open. Look, I got a shoe. And so these kids, like, actually think it's the cool thing is to open up a box, not go into a store and experience things.
And like, you know, before we even get to like the YouTube and stuff like that, like going back to what you said about the anticipation.
Oh, you guys talk about that from time to time?
Oh yeah, every once in a while.
We've touched on it, I think once or twice.
Touched on it. But like you said, that anticipation of the guy coming out the back room with the sneakers, it's now, I mean, there are memes now. The anticipation of the UPS truck
pulling up,
looking out the window.
Yeah,
like, that's
waiting
your
for the
new
mailman.
anticipation. Now with Sheik filing for bankruptcy, what was that, today or whatever it is?
Yep.
What happens? I mean, we just talked about, we don't go to the mall. Like George said he went to a Foot Locker today the first time in what, a year?
Not today. Whatever day I picked that 350 up. What was it, Saturday?
Oh, okay.
But that was the first time I've been in Foot Locker and can't even remember the last time. Probably with you.
There's no, like Matt said, there's no reason to anymore. And even like more on the anticipation thing, I don't know how it was for you guys, but I would get a pair of shoes for back to school and I would get a pair of shoes for Christmas. And I think that's why, like, I sent them both a text yesterday because the Air Force Max 2 OG Charles Barkley PE colorways have been releasing in Asia and they're going to hit here soon. And like, to me, like, I love that shoe because I got it for Christmas when I was in, I think, 3rd grade. And like the memories of that, like, nowadays, I feel like kids today just get whatever the fuck they want whenever they want it. And it's not even just online, but like, I don't know. I feel like the way that kids are raised now is different as well, which goes back to your point about at what point do they have nostalgia? Because like these shoes are important to me because I remember opening them on Christmas, or I remember wearing them my first day of school. But if you have 80 pairs of shoes as opposed to the 2 that I had a year when I was a kid, how do you pick which ones were most important to you, or like why that was a special shoe for you?
Well, see, with us, that's the thing too. With us, I was arguing with somebody on Instagram yesterday. I argue with a lot of people, and the word nostalgia for us, I'm sure between the 4 of us, we have the greatest sneaker stories ever growing up, and sneakers have released so many times and so often. You there, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what you drinking? You drinking something?
I'm drinking water, man. I drink a lot of water every day. I'm like, sorry.
We thought a noise was creeping in from somewhere.
Thought you were drowning. You're going to fly out there soon.
No, I'll throw the mute button on.
No, that's all good. That's all good. But no, like, it's funny because I was like, man, somebody was like, yo, it's nostalgia. And I said, you know what? I'm 34. I think I'm about to be 35 soon. Like,
You think?
I think I'm 35. I've run out of nostalgia. Like, I've had it all. We've had it all so many times now. And like you said, when something drops like a Barkley PE, you're not going to pay retail for no.
I'm not going to pay. I probably won't pay retail for it.
But
I'm going to buy it.
You're going to wait for it to go on sale, but you're definitely going to buy it.
I'll be just like the Agassi LWP. I will definitely buy the Agassi LWP when it comes out, but I will not pay retail for it because nobody else cares besides me and George.
That's a fact.
Right.
So
I mean, I think that the bigger issue that we've got now is that I don't think that companies, and especially in footwear, have considered that nostalgia might not actually be of interest to all generations.
Oh, it's not.
You know, like if you think about it, you know, I know my generation. I read this really great piece on what website it was. I think it was Wired, talking about like how if you were born in '83 or '84, you were the luckiest ever. And I really do feel that I'm very lucky based on the year that I was born, because I was young enough to have I was in elementary school when I started using a computer, but I didn't have the internet.
Oregon Trail.
And so I had to get comfortable with command prompt line at a very young age.
Yeah.
And it could only do so much. So I still had to make believe in my mind while I'm using a computer. Nothing was literal because, like, look at those graphics. They sure as hell weren't. And then, but I was familiar enough with things like that. Then as I got older, I got the internet in high school, and I was able to basically research things online and discover all this information and how to find information online. But I didn't have social media. And I literally, you know, had I stayed in school, I would have graduated before, you know, any of it really came out, any social media. So and then, you know, in the early 20s, having an iPhone when at a still very, very young age. So I was able to start all that stuff, but I got it at different times and different periods in my life. Now, the part where I'm going to with nostalgia on this is that my generation, especially my age, I was 16 years old right when 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, I think 9/11 has a lot to do with nostalgia trend. I was studying this, like, you know, there were very few images or videos that had surfaced online of like Rocco's Modern Life or Rugrats or Doug or all these things we had in our childhood.
Right.
In the early part of the internet. But when broadband had started to become more widely available and we could watch video, and the technology had caught up to where we could really stream video and all that kind of stuff, there was this lust, there was this appetite, there was this hunt we all had that we loved when something from our childhood would pop up on the internet, and we could go relive our youth through that. And I think 9/11 was very important for that, with myself and others, in that when 9/11 happened, like, all on television was stuff that really disturbed us at our age, and we kind of sought for something that made us happier. Remember the better times. Remember times when you didn't see this horrible stuff on TV all the time. And I think it made us want to chase our childhood more than other generations had. And if you look at BuzzFeed in its early beginning, some of its biggest posts were, like the 50 reasons why, like, Beavis and Butthead was whatever, or the, whatever number of reasons why, like, something from your childhood was the craziest. And there was, for quite a long period of time, the internet had a lot of these hits where it was the first time it was making it to the web. And we really love that nostalgia. I mean, even that column that I did Throwback Thursday for so many years, and we still do it today, but when we started Throwback Thursday, like, there were a lot of those shoes that I had to go out and buy because there was not a damn photo of them on the internet. Like, there was not a single photo that was of any decent quality of the Air Force STS before I posted those things online.
It's still like that to this day.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for that shoe. But, like, there were a lot of things that, and I think that nostalgia was great in that time, but you run out of things to relive and, live again. And like, you see that kind of with shoes, too. Like, there are only so many great shoes you can really retro. And we both can probably list off at least 5 shoes that definitely shouldn't have retroed because because brands ran out of things to bring back. But I think this generation, I don't think that they are really, I mean, we already see the Air Zoom generations have been out and they're not really being chased after that much by kids these days.
Well,
and LeBron is in his, he had when it came out, when the ACG came out, was when the LeBron 14 was on shelves and all that kind of thing. And that was at the same time that Michael Jordan had hit the last shot relative to his rookie shoe. And you saw that there was more of a demand for, the 99 retro series of Jordan than there is the, 2016 and 2017 retro of LeBron.
And see, you bringing up growing up in that specific era, because that's the same era we all grew up in, it's hard to really discuss.
George, huh? George was a grown man in that era.
It's hard to really discuss how great that era was and how much it meant to us and just society as a whole, to younger generation or anybody else, without being the old OG hater, this and that. We're talking, when you're talking like 9/11, like my son was born, and my stepson, he was born in 99, and we were just telling him, we brought up the internet, showed him 9/11. I forgot, like, he wasn't there, he wasn't. It's just crazy that I had to show him on the internet. And the fact that I'm talking the best era of sports, we saw Iverson, we saw Jordan, we saw
Charles Barkley,
we saw Mark McGuire, your Sammy Sosa's, your Barry Bonds. We saw all these athletes, and they all tied to music, hip hop, sneakers, everything you could think of. So we have an affinity to when it comes to, like, oh man, I get annoyed seeing nerds outside, nerds on YouTube unboxing infrared 6s. I'm like, you have no idea what you're doing or why these are even here. It's annoying.
Right.
But I can't tell them it's annoying because it's, you old, oh, you don't get it, blah, 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 blah. Fine. But it's an understanding of, that's why, like, when I see stuff now in the news, like Trump and all this crazy stuff, why it makes us extra angry, because we've seen so much from our era. So when we see stuff that's just out of control, heinous, it makes us even more angry. Like, at least me. I'm talking to myself. It gets me to a point to where, like, CNN isn't even allowed in my house because I get so angry of how the tides have turned so quickly. Like you said, I remember the internet, when the internet cracked off. Like, goodness, it was great. My friends came. I was one of the first ones in my neighborhood with internet. My friends came over just to look at it. We went to Playboy.com first, all right? Like, these are facts, all right? We went a lot of weird stuff first. We were just trying anything, all right? And it was crazy. It was amazing. Like,
you used to have to work to see naked ladies when we were kids.
You had to work hard to see naked ladies. Now I just go on Instagram. Like,
well, and I love that you bring that up about about how hard we had to look to find porn, but that in our day we had all those greats, right? All those great athletes, and some of the greatest plays that ever happened we didn't see live.
No.
And how did we find out about them? We either found out about them on SportsCenter if we had cable and we tuned in at the right time, because God forbid, there's no way we're going to sit through a whole nother hour to get another crack at that clip. Whereas today, and then there were sometimes some amazing plays that happened, and then the next day kids come, man, did you see that play Kobe made? And then he's like, the kid literally grabs the ball and tries to do what he can to show he did this and he did this and he did this. Like there was still this thing that we did where we had to envision and we had to see things and use our mind to create that visual for ourselves.
I'm not gonna lie.
I think
I was just going to say, if someone tells me that there's a super good play that just happened, if I can't find it instantly online, I'm talking about today, I'm angry. Like if someone's like, did you see that play? And then I go look.
The old forum joke was pics or it didn't happen. Now it's like 4K video or you're a liar. 4K video or fake news. I mean, like it's really got it. So I don't think like it's just changed so much And the reason I bring that up is that, like just that example of a kid like dreaming of doing this and, doing that shot. Like we used to do that, countdown at the buzzer and before you take a shot. And there was a lot of us that like really envisioned Michael Jordan doing that shot when we did that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and today's kid, I don't think uses their mind to dream and think as much as we did, because they had so many visuals. They have visuals at their disposal all the time. And I think because of that, I don't think this generation conceptualizes in their mind their affinity and their connection to a shoe quite like we did. Like some of the first shoes I chased and I loved writing about out of the gate were not shoes I owned. They were all the shoes I saw in East Bay or some rich kid at school had. It was never shoes I had. I had a $50 budget at Big Five for pretty much my whole high school life. My whole life up until high school, like late high school. And I think that now everything's like, you talk about the Jordan. It's like you can just go to Google Images and show it to you. I remember the early days, but of the web. Like you talk to people, hadn't seen every single Air Jordan model, and you had to kind of describe it to them. And you just sure as hell didn't have a smartphone to pull out and then show to them, hey, look, this is what the Air Jordan 4 looks like.
Well, that's what we kind of talked about. We talked about on previous episodes about events like SneakerCon. You have an entire building full of individuals that have their cell phones out trying to videotape themselves at a sneaker event. And we talked about how I remember going to events like that, using that opportunity to see a sneaker that I might not have ever seen before, or I might not ever see again. I remember when it was a period of time where it was like I had never seen a Yeezy 1 in person yet. I had never seen it in hand. I had never seen it, touched it yet. Now, with social media and everything is so oversaturated, I get, I'll be like, man, I really want that Yeezy, but I'll see it so many times on the internet, I start to be like, I don't even like it anymore.
Well, and also, too, I think that we see it so much, and you get to see all the details and everything like that to the point where you're like, I don't need to buy it now. No. I've gotten everything I need to see with it. And for a lot, for me, with a lot of things, like a lot of the retro pennies and whatnot, like, for me, it was I think half the reason I bought a lot of those pennies, when I had the shot, too, was just to actually hold those things in my hand, actually get to experience those things in person, because I definitely didn't get to do that before.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, the web has definitely changed a lot, but I really do think that the mobile web has really that is a different animal from the desktop web that we had for so many years.
Well, when the Yeezys came out or whatever came out recently, the Off-White pack, I had told George and Ryan, I said, I can't remember the last time I had my phone, iPad, and my computer in front of me. Like, I hadn't done that in a long time. And I was like, this is insane. I was angry at myself. I was like, I am sitting here every 30 minutes trying to get an Off-White sneaker, and I'm angry at myself, and I just can't stop. I lost on that one, next one. Lost on that one, next one. And I can't stop, but I'm so angry with myself that I've allowed something to take 2 hours of my time, and it just drove me mad. I didn't even try for the Jordan 1. I got so mad, I was like, I'm not even going to try for it. Like, it's just a crazy different time now. But going back to Nice Kicks and sneakers, and this is something I've always personally wanted to know. So, collabs. So, personally, New Balance 1500 and 1600 Nice Kicks are my personal favorites. But Nice Kicks,
I appreciate that.
Nice Kicks Nice Kicks NMD could possibly arguably be a top 10 collaborated sneaker of all time. How does something like that even come about? Collaborations, and how does it work?
Yeah, so collaborations really come from relationship building. Doing a collab was probably what my biggest goal was ever for years when I started the blog. Like, all I wanted to do was do a collaboration with someone. I wanted to create a shoe, and it wasn't about having my name on it. It's like I just wanted to make it my way and, have it be an official thing done with the brand. Hell, the first brand I actually pitched a collaboration idea to was Greedy Genius, and it was turned down.
What?
This was back in like 2006. They said no.
Greedy Genius. Wow.
My first collaboration project came with Ronnie on the Gelite 3, and this was in 2000 and either the end of 7 or I think the end of 2007. He gave me a call about it. And he did it was called the Trilogy Pack. It was Nice Kicks, High Snobiety, and another website, Culture Shock.
This was before Kith.
That's way before Kith. Yeah, this is I had met Ronnie in 2006, December. Actually, there was somebody who I knew, Rod Rainey, who called me out of the blue. Somebody I had known like many years before. He's like, "Hey man, there's this guy I know. His name's Ronnie Feig. He's like a buyer at this store, David Z. First time I'd ever heard of David Z or Ronnie, and he's like, he wants to link up." And Ronnie called me while I was driving somewhere in Austin, and it just so happened that I was going to New York for the 25th anniversary Air Force One party, like in 2 or 3 weeks. And we just, he called, we just talked about sneakers for like probably 45 minutes or an hour then. And, I was like, "Hey, look, I'm coming up. Like, let's meet when I'm in town." And, I trekked all the way down to Soho, from Midtown, walking, because I didn't know how far shit was in New York. I thought like, hey, it was really tight together, right? So I get down there, and I met him face to face for the first time down there, and that's when he showed me his Gelite 3s that he had sampled at that time, and he actually gave me a pair of Timberland boots that he had done, handmade 48 pairs in the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
And he was telling me about what he wanted to do, and we became really close friends. We talked a lot about where the business was, what the brands don't see, what's missing in retail, how to, get enter the product right, and how to excite the people. And, he gave me the opportunity to do a collaboration. I think he knew how much I really wanted to, because I was jealous of every project he ever did. And so we created that first one. That was the red Gelite 3. That's called the 1.0 now, because we didn't know that there would be a sequel, but that one like sold out in like 15 or 20 minutes, which at that time was like absolutely unheard of. And sold online. I think it was the first project he had that sold out that quickly. And it was really awesome to see people, really love that shoe. And then we did a second one, the 2.0, which went in a completely opposite direction from all bright red to a muted soft gray, and I pulled off a lot of the materials, like the netting. I really wanted to have that sealed off. And then he worked with ASICS to, instead of screen print Gelite 3 on the back, it would be stamped. And the whole idea was to remove materials away from it and make it simpler. So those were the first 2 collabs. And I think the third one actually was the New Balance 1500 that you were talking about. And that came in at 2011 for our 5-year anniversary of the blog.
The 1600 was 2015, right? The blue?
The 16 was 2014, yeah.
Was it that long ago? Jesus
it was my last project when I'd owned the store. And that one was the last one. And that was one that actually had I would say no ties to Nice Kicks whatsoever in terms of the story. The story was all mine personally. I lived in the Caribbean when I was in high school, down in Grenada, and the Grand Anse is the name of the beach that I would go to, where it was kind of the cultural center for that part of the island that I was living on. And every panel and every piece, every material has a distinct purpose of why it was selected. It represents different things of Grenada and the island and the beach.
So you're hands on when it comes to collaborations. Like that's like I never
so all those projects, the Adidas NMD that you're talking about, that was really designed that was after I'd sold the retail, and that was actually done by someone at Adidas. That wasn't done by the retail side. That was done by Adidas. My friend Jimmy Manley, he's the one who took that project on, put that all together. So, but everything I do, like when it came to a project with Nice Kicks, I very hands-on. Everything I had to do, like I was a little bit of a control freak with that.
So then with the NMD, were you heavily involved with that since you had sold at that point, or was
No, I wasn't. I mean, they had one direction initially for it that was, I'm not afraid to say, it was fucking terrible. And thankfully Jimmy was like, he took it on, and we had talked back and forth a little bit. He knew where I was about, what Nice Kicks represents, what are important things of Nice Kicks, storytelling aspect, and, red being the color was a very important part of that. And Jimmy nailed that one. But
that's probably one of the top 5 collabs to me.
I've only ever seen that one.
Yeah, it's funny because like the tie-dye, when I'd seen the tie-dye from Jimmy, I was like, man, this is awesome, because I'd always wanted to do tie-dye before, and it wasn't because of San Francisco, it was because of Austin. And so when he showed the tie-dye, I'm like, fuck yes, like that is amazing.
I remember when the pictures first came out, I remember George loved them. And maybe Ryan did too. I don't remember.
They reminded me of Hulk Hogan's tights.
And I did not like them. I didn't like them at all. And then I'm walking through the mall, and this guy walks by wearing them. And I text George and Ryan. I was like, them joints are fire. Yeah, all right.
I mean, one of the important things for me whenever I did my projects on things is that I never wanted to ever make a product that I always wanted to look way better on foot, first of all, than just sitting on a shelf. Secondly, I always wanted it to be as close to relevant for the time, but I wanted it to be timeless. And so if you look at our projects, like with the Nice Kicks 1500, like that was definitely a time where crazy was really cool, and I didn't want to go over the top on it. Like it might look good for then, but not going to stand with the test of time. And that's that's a tough challenge when you are designing in collaboration. I think that's why this year's kind of been disappointing as a whole when it comes to collabs.
You think so?
Besides the Off-White and, the Cause, besides those, like, there've been a lot that really haven't had any story to them. And I've seen, like, I can't believe how many triple, like, white, black, or, like, solid colors I've seen for a collaboration this year. I'm like, dog, you've got the opportunity to create. Why would you go with something that looks kind of borderline safe?
And so what did you think about the Kith Pippin pack?
I thought that definitely wasn't solid tone in the Pippin one. That had all the different materials on that. That was pretty cool. I mean, I liked the Maestro 2 probably more. I did think that the Neon 95 colorway on the Pippin one was a pretty cool idea, because very few probably ever looked at the panel structure of the Pippin one and thought, wait, I could do a gradient flow like on the Neon 95s. So I think that's definitely a Ronnie thing right there. Like Ronnie saw the panels and saw, wait, that's an opportunity that people haven't taken advantage of yet. So out of all the Kith Pippin, I'd say that's my favorite, just because I think he saw something absolutely no one else has ever seen.
Well, it's funny when you said about you see the collaborations come out with something just plain. I always thought to myself, maybe the collaborator didn't have say. Like I don't understand that as well. That's why I love the Off-White pack so much, because of how it was.
Oh, you knew it was his.
Yeah, because it was taken apart. It was something that. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I had said, man, it kind of takes some guts to say, you want to do a collaboration of a Jordan 1 all the way through a Vapor Max. I mean, he went from like Jordan 1, Blazer, all the way to like the current Vapor Max, and he took them apart. It takes guts to say, I'm going to take a Jordan 1 apart and I'm going to make it my way.
Well, and I mean, like the thing I'm probably the happiest about is like what Virgil had told people at the off-campus thing. Ray had reported on this, which was that Virgil had almost made the shoe white in like natural color.
Yeah.
And then he saw somebody in a what's it called? He saw somebody in an airport with jeans on with a dunk, and he's like, "Oh my God, that looks just like what my shoe would look possibly like with the jeans on." He's like, "What makes the Jordan 1 versus every, like the Dunk or, a couple other shoes that were very similar?" And it was like, "Oh wait, it's a color blocking on it." And that's why that, I really love, that's why that Jordan 1 is that color. And it's different from the rest of the pack, because he wanted to make sure it didn't look like, or couldn't be mistaken for. And part of the greatest parts of the Air Jordan 1 was actually its color blocking.
Yeah.
And, if you think about it, if you look at history, you'd never seen black and red paired together before Air Jordan. Like, you saw black with white, but you never saw black with red on shoes before. And I think that makes that shoe even better.
Do you think at some point you have to stop making a shoe? Like, you have to stop making a Jordan 3 or a 4. You just
they did that. They took it away from the market.
See, they do that, but it's not as long as like they make it seem. I remember when they were like, "We're locking up the 3 for ever," or something like that.
Like a year.
It was retired indefinitely or whatever, which in a Michael Jordan term could literally mean a matter of months. Yeah. But the thing with the thing that I saw with the 3, actually, the Jordan 3 was retired longer than the first 2 retirements of Michael Jordan, so I give him props for that. But the thing with the Jordan 3, I thought it was good that they did hang that one up for a while. Right. I don't think that it came back at the proper time with the pant trend. I think that, it came back, and when it came back with what, like the Cyber Monday colorway, that black with the white bottom, and then then shortly thereafter the wool and the true blue. Like, I really think if you're going to take something away from the market and you're going to make a big deal about it, do it like Stan Smith, and it's got to make a big entrance when it comes back.
Yes.
Because otherwise you lost that whole story of that you took it away from the market. Instead, it's like, oh, the Jordan 3 is back. And it's like no one was really talking like, oh, this is the return of the Jordan 3. It's just like, oh, the Jordan 3 is back. Yeah. Well, that kind of defeats the whole purpose, right?
You just brought up the Cyber Mondays. I couldn't even picture it. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like, that takes away from the Jordan 3.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like, especially Michael Jordan, of any person to have phrases like "I'm back" tied to, I mean, Jordan shoes have got to be it. So if you're going to retire it, and make it go dark. But when it comes back, like, make it a big return, like Michael did in the NBA.
It should have been the black
like
cement
Michael
3.
Jordan always has. So I just don't think that there was all that planning when it was pulled from the market that how the return would be.
So considering that you are, Nice Kicks was, one of the original sneaker blogs. It's
the first.
The first.
I started. Yeah, we were the first. There were just forums and message boards before.
And considering, you're an original creator. Starting a sneaker blog is original creation, being the first. How do you feel when you see, and we're going to talk YouTube, when you see these, quote unquote YouTubers, quote unquote shoe tubers use something that you help cultivate basically as a prop for attention to themselves? I don't know a better way to put it, because I don't like a lot.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you didn't say, think about what you created, that you inspired these kids to create amazing content that furthered the conversation and storytelling of the shoes. You said, how did you feel when you created something that might have led to the inspiration on how to make attention for themselves? Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest, most frustrating things I had was when I would hear, brands and whatnot put emphasis around digital video and YouTube, and they thought that they would see all these views on YouTube, and they would think that those are views because of sneakers, or that sneakers were somehow being elevated in those videos. And it's like, I don't think they, for once, like, looked through. It's like they didn't even watch the videos, because it's like, if you watch a lot of the videos, and this is not all of them. Like, I think there are some fantastic videos about sneakers on YouTube. Oh, yeah. I love what Jacques does. I think Jacques is fantastic storyteller. and probably one of the best on camera, period. But I think that when people are talking sneaker YouTube, I think that generally the conversation is about when the subject or title line might include a brand and model, but the focus and the actual subject matter in the video is not that. It's the actual person in there. And there's nothing wrong with personalities. Fine. Like, that's totally cool. Be yourself. Like, I mean, remember what YouTube's tagline was from 05 to 07 when they launched was broadcast yourself. Well, that's exactly what a lot of YouTubers are doing. They're broadcasting themselves. But are they creating value for footwear brands or whatnot? Not really, in my opinion. I don't think they're doing things to create value or to gain respect. I think they're doing things for attention. And I think that something that is lost in by a lot of people who are creating videos is that they feel this pressure. I hear it all the time, like, oh, you know, like you feel the pressure to create a video a day. And it's like, that's a really bad reason to create a video because you just quote need to, you know, like you should create a video because you have something of value to put in the video, not like I just need to create something. And it's like also too, why are a lot of these videos 10 minutes and 1 second or 10 minutes and 3 seconds? Oh, you know, it's unveiled that, you know, YouTube was giving more, you know, edge rank or whatever visibility rank to videos that were over 10 minutes long. And it's like, so you felt compelled that you had to create a video for today because you have to make one a day. And then you felt compelled it needed to be more than 10 minutes. And a lot of these are not really videos. Like, let's be honest here. They're not videos. They're recordings.
Well,
there are a lot of videos up there that are not really like edited at all.
Oh no.
So
that's the thing too. Like, that's why I get annoyed when the word content is thrown around. So
it's about like influencer now, which sucks.
It is. And like, I don't like, there's a few, you know, sneaker reviews that I do watch. I watch like Trady Kicks, RJ, Mike Rich. You know, I've watched Gabriel Kicks. There's a few, Mr. Midos. I watch a few people that do sneaker reviews because I do kind of like their personality and they get straight to the point. I just don't like when these bigger YouTubers, shootubers, they call what they do content when it's not content if it's you were forced to do it. Like, you didn't create anything. Like, and like you said, they stress, you know, it's hard making one every single day. You know what? This isn't content then. Like, you're just here because, you know, you have nothing else to do. You don't know what else to do with yourself. And then now the fact that at some point throughout the years, they incorporated Snkrs and they've become like the faces of the sneaker community. I mean, I will always support a sneaker con, but I absolutely hate it. I can't go to a sneaker con that's based around the faces of individuals that people see on YouTube. I can't. It angers me to a point of it makes me sour. Well, I mean, to sneakers.
I think that is the convention about sneakers or is the convention about personality?
It's not.
It's about personality.
You know, like when you just described it like that.
No,
it's not about sneakers at all. That's why I told them that you should call it YouTuber Con. This isn't a sneaker event anymore. It's like something where sneakers are present. It's like, I mean, I honestly think that if some of these individuals weren't at Sneaker Con, it might be empty, you know. Because a lot of people, they're not even buying sneakers, all right?
Well, look at the last show that we went to locally that they were supposed to be there, and then they had to move the weekend, and it was empty.
Yeah, like...
It normally isn't.
I don't... Like, it just gets me upset that like I said earlier, I know we have great stories with sneakers. I hate the fact that there's not going to be a such thing as a sneaker OG anymore. There's not going to be a sneaker OG. These kids aren't going to become an OG in sneakers. They're great at sneakers.
There will be some.
Okay. There'll be some.
There will be some.
There'll be some.
There's also, I think that, you know, also too, there's, you know, like Michael Dell is a great example of this. Michael Dell was, you know, when his story is told, is he was the guy who first started buying and selling baseball cards. And that's where he started to learn how to be an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff. There is a future CEO of a Fortune 500 who got his start buying and selling shoes too. And so I think that there are some positives to eventually, you know, come to fruition from all of it. But I do agree that it has gotten to the point in a lot of ways that Yeah, I mean, it's not creating value for pretty much anyone. I mean, I think that it might be occupying kids' time, and it might be, shallow entertainment for them.
Right.
But I don't really think it provides much value beyond that. I mean, it's sad because I think of like San Antonio, Sneaks Up, like shout out to the whole Sneaks Up crew, Norm and everyone. It's like these guys literally created a free community sneaker event before there was any boutique in San Antonio. They did that for years before there was ever a boutique. So you talk about real community events. Or Kadoma, the H-Town Sneakers. I'm going to go out to a show this weekend. Like, Kadoma started in a freaking sports bar because he was able to convince the guy to let him host some people for free to just meet up. That were people who they like. It was a thread on Nike Talk. Meet up. Let's just meet face to face, and you see in like how much it's grown. I don't feel that I feel like a lot of kids don't even have any concept of what that is anymore. What, like people say, oh, there is no culture. There is no culture. It's like, well, a lot of stuff that is called sneaker culture is not culture for sure. But I wouldn't say there's no culture. I wouldn't say that everybody has completely left the game from being positive. But I'd say that it's always been a community of collectors. I just think that the community of collectors have been looking for a different thing from the community than before. I think a lot of people wanted to give and bring back, or and bring others in and give back to others. And I think now it's a lot of take, me attitude and things.
So based on that, I have a question for you. And because one of my favorite things ever that Nice Kicks has done, and I used to look at it however often you put it up, whether it was bi-daily or weekly, was Kicks on Court. I absolutely loved Kicks on Court. I've noticed
Still
lately.
Going. I think we just had a post like a couple minutes ago on IG.
Yeah. Well, I just noticed it slowed down a little bit, like over the past year and a half, 2 years. So there's an individual who's a 2-time Kicks on Court champion that used to play for the Phoenix Suns that we've all had the privilege to meet. That Greg is a little bitter towards because he thinks that if he spent more time putting up jumpers than he did looking for rare shoes to stunt, he would be a better basketball player.
Why do you got to use the word bitter? I'm not bitter that he has sneakers.
So my question is when it started to turn from Kicks on Court being like a thing to where people didn't really pay attention to athletes now trying to get featured on Kicks on Court, did that sour you at all?
So it's crazy. Like we started the first Kicks on Court post I think I posted was in 2007 or 2008. I think it was 2008 actually. It was the summer games, and I started following the Redeem team. And that's when I had the first Kicks on Court post, and of course in their gold medal game, like every guy had like something unveiled that game. And then, we started doing it after that, right when I had hired the 4 original guys at the office in Lakeway, and it became a daily column on the site. And it was not long before we started to really you see that the guys on Twitter, there's no Instagram at the time. The guys, the NBA players on Twitter really started following us. And then we started seeing them retweet whenever they got to headline Kicks on Court. Like that was the big deal. We started hearing from dudes like Nick Young and whatnot, like Nate Robinson.
God.
Like they really loved getting, respect for their shoe game.
He's so angry.
I think so annoying.
Greg is so angry about that.
Nick Young and PJ Tucker and all them, they're not good at basketball.
But why? Here's the thing: if they can have fun and have a more enjoyable time with their profession through sneakers, why the hell not?
Wearing because a Yeezy 2 to hoop in is insane. Okay.
When Gilbert Arenas pulled out those
Dolce Gabbanas, that was goofy.
That was what we were doing. That's what we do. Like, okay, dude, you are really playing into this.
Too hard.
Became the Gilbert watch. It was just crazy.
But when we would see,
it was a fun year though. It was a fun year to see what he was going to wear next.
He was being rebellious.
But I mean, before Kicks on Court on Nice Kicks, one of the greatest threads really was the Kobe, transition year where he had to be brand neutral. He could never wear one brand more than 2 games consecutively. And he had PE Jordans, he had PE Reeboks, he had PE, Nikes. Like, he was constantly switching between the 3. And it was so great. It was so much fun because there was all of a sudden this draw. Like, what did Kobe wear tonight? Because before, it was kind of predictable what people would wear. And, that's when things, I think, really started to change.
And I think
Kobe.
With that, I was just going to say, because Greg said it here in studio off the mic, and I think I knew exactly what he was going to say. There's a little bit of a difference just because Kobe is Kobe. You know what I mean? Like, he's that good, and it didn't matter that he was wearing.
Seeing PJ Tucker hooping a Yeezy 2 and his stats are 6 points as well.
PJ Tucker's to defend PJ Tucker and Nick Young or whatever, like maybe those guys are not going to be, Hall of Famers on first ballot, like all that kind of stuff. But guess what? Those guys would ball the crap out of pretty much 99% of America anyways. They might not ball out the top guys of the NBA, but still.
According to Greg, he could beat both of them 2-on-1, but he won't play me he won't play me 1-on-1.
Wrong. I can't beat Nick Young in a 3-point contest. I could beat PJ Tucker in a 3-point contest.
I would bet Yeezys on PJ Tucker against you in a 3-point contest.
Look, man, this is the thing. My argument was I saw PJ Tucker. I said PJ Tucker should be just as good as Kevin Love or Draymond Green. That's what I said. That's all we expect. Draymond Green doesn't average 25, 15. Draymond Green averages about 13, 8, 6. Like, that's some good stat lines. When I would see that PJ Tucker was playing in Yeezy 2s, some Rare 4, some KD, and I was like, okay, cool. And this stat line of the night. I remember people would post in Facebook groups, yo, PJ Tucker wore Yeezy 2s tonight. I looked at his stats, 3 points, 1 rebound in 47 minutes. I said, what? What?
47 minutes.
It drove me wild. Like, it just drove me wild. And I get it. They're having fun. I 100% get it, and I'm not bitter being a hater.
Well, see, I think the interesting thing here is all of us kind of hate the over officiating of celebrations in sports. We like when guys celebrate when they do stuff, so it's kind of weird that Greg has that stigma.
I don't know, man. Like, now I see Terrence Ross and all these cats out here hooping in Concords and Jordan 4. I don't know why it bothers me. I have no idea why, dude.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, when the nice kicks on court started, you would see Melo rocking some, but it's not like Melo was trying. Like, Melo was just wearing a PE that he had made for him. And Chris Paul was making a PE that he had made for him, or Kawhi Leonard or whoever. It's guys that they weren't trying to stun or look cool. They were just wearing what was in their locker that Jordan Brand sent them. And then it turned into, like you said, the Nick Youngs and the PJ Tuckers going and searching for all right, what is going to get me that cover? What's going to get me in the list of 20 people
say it. What's going to get you those Instagram double taps? Facts.
That's true.
That's what they're looking for. What did you send me today? You sent some sneak. I had never seen those.
I sent you a picture of PJ Tucker posted locker today of his locker next to Chris Paul's locker, and all their shoes mixed, and it said something like, when you have me and Chris Paul's locker next to each other, it's infinite heat or something. And I was like, I bet Chris Paul walks into the locker room and sees PJ Tucker messing with his shoes and is like, bro, stop touching my shit.
All right, so I don't follow PJ Tucker. Does he post videos of him working out in the gym? Or
he posts pictures of him driving. He posted a picture today. I saw it earlier when I was looking for the picture again of him driving a Lamborghini.
Okay.
Singing.
Stupid. Does he post pictures of himself working out, shooting jumpers or anything like that?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so he does both at least. It's not just all one-sided. Is my question.
If I'm going to talk about the kids wanting the double taps, there are some grown men who out here want the double taps.
If I had a Lamborghini, I'd be posting pictures.
We know they're grown men who want the double taps. I mean, there's also this kind of go here. There's also this kind of sick thing of grown men trying to get props from 12-year-old boys in person. That part kind of creeps me out too.
It is.
Just saying, but whatever.
No. I mean, the
sneaker YouTubers.
That's the
worst of
that's
that
the
song.
society. That's the entire quote unquote culture. Like you said, people say there's no culture. No, there's culture. I just sometimes don't like it, and sometimes I do like it. When I win a cause for, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, that's tight. I won a cause for, but I'm not a fool. In the back of my mind, I'm also like, dang, I could get $1,700 for this. And then in my back of my mind, I'm like, and then I'm also thinking, I have a responsibility to keep this sneaker. Like, it's
but
a
you know,
weird
the thing
dynamic.
That's crazy when you say that. I still can't get over the fact that winning a cause for could be something like $1,500 or $1,700 to me, because it's like, do you remember the days when like a super OG pair of shoes of OG Jordan like was cracking the 700 mark? You're like, oh man, that's just way too much to spend for a pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
I can't spring for that.
Oh, we still talk about this day who can afford that price.
The top line was like, I remember people were like talking about how Flight Club prices became like a thing, like became Flight Club prices when they were charging like $400 for a pair of threes that might sell like on the forums for like $275 or $300. So it was like saying like $400 or $425 was just like this outrageous price for a pair of shoes. And it's like, it really started with the Yeezy ones, like the Nike Air Yeezys, the original, that the $1,000 mark was really cracked out of the gate for a shoe that was produced in relatively larger numbers. You know, like, yeah, there were shoes that sold for more than 1,000 at that time, but those were like, 48 pairs in circulation kind of thing, friends and family, not a pair that was released to the public that most people had some kind of relative access to. And now, like, these prices, I mean, they're just, I can't justify them. Like, I live down in Texas. Like, we're literally talking about pretty nice mortgage payments on your feet. Like, that just does not make sense to me. I'm sorry.
Well, it's weird because with me personally, we talked about it. Well, there was like a limit where it was like, oh, I'm never paying this amount. And then it like, oh, I'm never paying this amount now. And it just kept creeping up. And with me personally, it happened with Foamposites. We weren't buying Foamposites anymore to wear or ever to wear. But when those kept getting higher and higher, it became to me more acceptable to pay that on something that I'm willing to wear.
I'm glad you brought that shoe up, the Foamposite, because when that shoe went over $2,000, I was like, oh, the Galaxy ones. I was like, okay, this is. And I actually have an article that's half written now. You guys hear it first. The title of the article is the release that ruined sneakers, and it's about the Galaxy Foamposite. The Concord 11s came out as a retro, and that was one that unfortunately got some bad press for Nike on a bigger scale, and not just Nike, but just retailers and sneaker culture and as a whole. When you saw the videos of people, because remember, end of 2011, most people had the 3GS iPhones, and now we were starting to get videos deployed everywhere, and you had videos go up of people being stupid for shoes, like breaking doors at malls and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Shortly thereafter, the Galaxies happened. The Galaxies were so limited, and there were so few places that got them. And they, the release wasn't handled properly at a mall in Orlando. Things were disorganized. I remember, like, they had police helicopters, like 3,000 people trying to get into the mall for like 20-something pairs. And it was like, dude, of course this is going to be a nightmare. And shortly thereafter, Nike changed release policies to retailers. Like, we got an email. I was actually looking in my inbox for the story. It's on April the 19th. I got an email from my Nike rep. He forwarded it over, and it talked about these are the new rules with launches. And one of the things they deaded was midnight releases. We couldn't do a midnight release or party with that ever again. We weren't allowed to tell people, not allowed to display a product before release, or and that was not only in store, that was also online, which put us in an odd predicament, because I immediately saw that email. I'm like, okay, cool. You want to make things safer for consumers. All right. No lineups. Okay, whatever. But I said, this whole thing of Nice Kicks not being allowed to talk about a shoe before it comes out, that's kind of going to be a problem with us, because that's kind of what we do. Mm-hmm. And, it led to a problem with myself and Nike that didn't end until I sold the store, in that they wanted, internally at Nike, they wanted to say that Nice Kicks was a retailer, not a media outlet, not a website. And we were a blog well before we were a retailer. Well, and it's just one store, So we weren't allowed to post shoes until the release date. Until they had come out, we were not allowed to post shoes and this went on for almost 6-7 months in 2012.
Well, that kind of brings up another thing. Why was Nice Kicks one of the original people to always be able to sell Nike online? Like
we were. So when I went in, like I went in 2010 to pitch marketing ideas to Nike. And we had, just opened the store, and my rep and the regional rep wanted me to come in and talk about opportunities. We were like, look, obviously the rep is from Texas. The regional rep was from Texas as well. And he's like, there are a lot of things in this market. Texas is the second largest state in the nation and growing faster than any of the other larger states in terms of growth. And Nike really wasn't doing anything in Texas. There were like almost no marketing activations by that company in Texas. So that's what I went up there for, was like, hey, let's activate around Texas relays. Let's activate around South by Southwest. Let's activate around UT football games. Kevin Durant went here. There's so many things. Like, we're only a block from the UT campus. So it was like, there were a lot of things I went to pitch there. And one of the fellows in the room said, you pitched all these marketing ideas that I love and I think are great. But he's like, how come you didn't mention anything about selling Nike products online? And I'm like, huh? What? And he's like, you didn't say anything about asking about to sell Nike online? I'm like, I never thought that was ever an option, because you never have let anybody do that. They're like, never say never. And I walk out, I'm like, oh shit, it's about to go down. Oh my God, this is amazing. Because when I'd opened the store, I had assumed I would never be allowed to sell a Nike shoe on the internet. I just accepted the fact. And, the only account that had at that time was like undefeated, and I don't think they were really doing much in terms of online sales. Only like certain small drops they'd put online. Like, no one was really doing it. And sure enough, we got the approval to sell, and this was in, I guess, like the summer of 2012 is when we started to be able to sell Nike product online, which was great. But yeah, before we couldn't sell Jordan online, but we could sell Nike then.
Oh, that was crazy, because there's still sites now that still make you try to call in, like Packer and things like that.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. It's crazy too, because at that time, one of my arguments that I made when I was, when I heard it was an opportunity, because I had to go through a lot. Remember, I said 2010 is when I first pitched it, and I didn't get to do it until summer 2012. There were rounds of discussions and presentations, and one of the things that I brought up was that you guys literally are selling thousands of pairs to retailers in the United Kingdom and Europe who are selling them just back to Americans. And I'm like, all your like, so much of your growth in UK for Jordan brand was not selling to people in UK. They're shipping those shoes back to the United States. And I was like, why would you? And because in the European Union and in England and most countries around the world, like, a brand or a supplier can't tell a retailer what they can and can't do with that product that they bought. There's also no MSRP in a lot of countries. A supplier is not allowed to tell a store what they can and can't sell a product for. Very different in the United States. But so all those European shops were allowed to sell online. It was maddening how many pairs were being shipped from Europe to Americans, and American boutiques were not allowed to sell to Americans.
That's crazy.
Like, this is outrageous.
Yeah, so, that I remember that. I was like, man, it's crazy how on Nice Kicks, I didn't understand that entire process. I remember George would always talk about it. But like you were saying, in Europe, like, people were trying to find a connect. Somebody you knew in Europe or overseas or in the military that can buy those pairs online and send them back over here.
Yeah, it was wild. And also another thing I found so wild too is that a lot of brands, and this is not just Nike, like when we had the Nike approval, like pretty much every brand would not allow us technically to send shoes overseas. You could only sell to U.S. customers. We had to, like, I think New Balance had once made a stink about it, and I put a line on there, like, U.S. addresses only. Like, if they ordered from overseas, I was letting that shit go. Like, I don't give a fuck. That's not my issue. But the thing was that it was so wild because while we couldn't ship overseas, they were sending stuff to America like nonstop. There were no restrictions on them to only sell in their local markets online. So it was wild times.
Do you think this generation or this wave of sneakerheads, the greatest story that they'll ever have about sneakers is how they once copped Yeezys?
I fear for the longevity of this industry in terms of sneakerhead is that they won't have anything they ever want to remember. or, you know, I just don't think they will. I also think the other problem that you have you know, like there aren't a lot of retroable moments for these kids that they want to relive. And
the original, they don't care about the original, like let alone the retro. I mean, I can't imagine a LeBron 14 retroing. Like that's insane.
I mean, and also too, you have to think like, you know, a lot of the shoes that are built are kind of built, quote, for the future or today. Like, you know, the NMD is a great example of this. This is a fantastic shoe that's built for today's consumer, today's on-the-go guy, you know, like kids who are walking lots of, you know, I remember NMD. So that it was called, the name NMD
Nomad
it was first called the Nomad, really. It stands for Nomad. And the reason it was NMD is that those are the 3-letter call letters, you might say, that you would find on an airport or a train station. Huh. So it was meant for the urban nomad of today. And that urban nomad, like when they picture that, Adidas pictures this kid this guy who travels, you know, the world, and he's in airports and train stations, he's on the go, and this is the shoe for the future, for that future urban nomad. I think that 10 years from now, I don't know that we're necessarily going to see a retro NMD and a desire to have that retro NMD just come out. And, you know, just come out of nowhere, completely disregarding what current fashion trends are. I think that Adidas is building for the future where people are wanting to consume shoes that are more built for today's world and the future than they are wanting something that was back then. So, I mean, there's a lot of talk that like classics is a business that will stick around, but retro is a business that might actually not exist, you know, in 5 years.
Now,
you know, there's a very strong chance of it.
Now, would we have said the same thing about Air Max 97s, 95s, Air Max 1s, 90s, etc., like that, you know, those were built with the technology they had then for that time. But, I mean, there is still a desire for them now.
There is now. I mean, I think that the 97 was so futuristic that it was not well received at the time because it was too futuristic. You know, I definitely hear that argument that, you know, and sometimes it's just, look, there are going to be pop moments that make something happen, you know, like things that happen, you know, like I think that like a lot of the Air More Up-Tempo run is that, you know, this was the one shoe that was big, bulky, and made of leather in a sea of knit shoes that were slimmed down. I think that it hit at the right time, you know, in terms of like it was the zig to the zag. And I think that the mistake that Nike had was that Nike interpreted I even had a friend at Nike ask me this. He's like, people are talking that there's this interest in Pippen. There's a Pippen story to be told. I'm like, it ain't Scottie Pippen. Like, I mean, I love the guy. He's one of my favorite basketball players of all time. Like, right. But it's not about Pippen. It's about the shoe. It's about the way it looks. Even it's not even about the actual product. So I think we'll see things like be able to pull back from the archives that way. But I don't know that we're going to necessarily be able to quote tell a Barkley story like we used to. I don't know if we're going to. I'm trying to think of like a mid 2000s, you know, like. Retroable guy. I mean, we're not going to have the Reebok franchise, you know, be a retro. Like it's not going to happen, or anything Yao Ming. Like it's not going to be a retroable thing.
Or the Rezig.
I don't think going forward.
The Rezig.
Oh, jeez.
How long do you think we have until, you know, people stop caring about Supreme and stuff like
Yeezys.
That? Like Yeezys and.
I mean, I think that. You know, it's amazing. Like Supreme has been just an incredible story. I think
both Supreme and Kanye are incredible stories to me because what separates Kanye from any other artist who wasn't able? You know what I mean? He got his own deal with Nike, but why hasn't anyone else's shoe blown up like that?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see it's going to be either something else will come in and slide in and take the attention away, or. You know, like, look, our economies are not immune from another financial crisis. And last time that happened, that really shook up the shoe market as well as streetwear markets, the urban wear market. Like, everything got completely shaken up. Like, go ask how True Religion and, you know, a lot of those denim brands or Rock and Republic were doing before Bear Stearns happened. $300 denim was actually a category for men.
Huh.
And then as soon as the recession happened, like, it was actually cooler to wear $40 501s than it was to be the douchebag with rhinestones on your ass. Like it just was.
With the thick white threads.
Things can happen. I think it's going to be what will shake up this business will be either something that slides in and takes the attention, or, some kind of cultural shift will happen as a result of some unforeseeable event.
I guess my last question just is, what do you see for yourself in the future? Was your goal not to be like a Ronnie, what he's done with Kith, since you're out of the retail business and you just want to do the blog stuff now? Or what's your ultimate thing going forward?
So for me, my future is that, there were so many things I always wanted to do with Nice Kicks that I couldn't do technically because I didn't have the technical capabilities. And also I didn't really, at that time, it was very hard to create certain applications. There were literally, we're talking about the days before, iPhone apps or mobile apps or anything like that. There have always been things I've wanted to do and tools I've wanted to create that I think users would really, really enjoy. And I think that the buying and selling process is always going to be part of this culture. Like, this whole, the word reseller means something very different than, what it was early on, at least. The only reason I ever did stuff with shoes online for a while, like really when I got into things, was I was buying clearance items and selling them on eBay. And, I think that so much of shoe culture was, Ray put out a tweet 2 days ago that got all these people hot, and he said, as much as you hate resellers, reselling is what brought, made sneaker culture what it is on the internet. That's very true. Like, what brought a lot of people to the internet for shoes was trying to find that shoe they couldn't find in their local market. And, whether it be that it was sold out or it was, so many years ago, is a vintage hunt, or, trying to find an exclusive colorway. I still think that will always be here in this culture. There is always going to be the need to find something you can't immediately get that's right next to you. I do think that we're going to see this new world, this global distribution pattern probably be put to the side for a lot of the top tier products. I think a lot of the brands will see that that's not the best strategy to have the same shoe in, Nebraska as it is in, I don't know, Belarus. Like, there should be some market segmentation around the globe, and regionally within a country. So I think there's always a need for that. And I what I'm working on right now is a project that helps with that. But I do think that for Nice Kicks, storytelling is always going to be a super important thing for us. I've always said it is that, it's not the leather and the rubber that makes these shoes that's so cool. It's the people behind them. And it's the stories that go into them that make them what they are. And, I think that is what you'll continue to see from us. But yeah, we have some really good stuff happening this next year I'm really excited about. So, for me, long term, it's just going to be like, I don't know, making it more enjoyable for everyone, personally.
Hey,
are you staying in the sneaker business, or you want to do something else? Or,
I mean, that's the biggest thing I have the battle with. I always tell myself, I've spent too many years in this to leave it now. And I really do love this business. Like, don't get me wrong. There are many individuals who I've come across through the years that I don't really like, but that's going to happen in any industry. But I really do love this business. Something about me, my first job ever when I was 16 years old was working at a shoe store. And I have not left the industry since then. I've worked in so many different capacities of the industry from top to bottom and so many different jobs within it. That, it's literally been more than half my life. I'm 33 years old, and I've spent 17 years in footwear. So,
33.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, obviously we appreciate you coming on. Nice Kicks is a staple.
Yes.
Like I said, if you don't know Nice Kicks, you don't have no business rocking kicks, to be honest with you. And one of the great things that I heard when you were on the Premium Pete and shout out to Premium Pete. Premium Pete was an awesome guest for us. And I was glad that you're on that podcast. And for the fact that, he said, you had brought up, either you or him had brought up, it's a compliment. It's a compliment to say, Nice Kicks, and it's just one of those things that, like, Nice Kicks is an inspiration to us. I mean, starting the podcast, there were a few sneaker podcasts out there, and I think you guys had even had something earlier on.
We did a live show for a while.
Yeah, for a while, and stuff like that was an inspiration to us. And every week we try to come up with a new, takes on things that are going on in the culture, and voice our opinions, and we definitely share what we discuss in just a regular text message thread. So, like you say, those stories are what's important. And when we come here and we share those stories and we talk about our experience or how angry we got this week or how many L's or how many W's or how many things we sold or bought or lost or copped or someone screwed us over, it's a part of the culture and it's a part of our story. And, Nice Kicks is that foundation and the first to bring those stories to the sneaker community. So, we definitely appreciate that.
Yes.
Oh, man, thank you.
And, like I said, I think we just might as well end it right there. But like I said, we appreciate you coming on. I know our listeners will enjoy this. I mean, I hope you be willing to come on again, in the near future. Anytime you ever need us for anything, always hit me up. Let us know. We're down for whatever. And it's fun and it's good to have a connection with somebody, You might feel weird for us to say that to you, but, as important as you are in the culture, So, I mean, the fact that you answered our DMs and emailed us a long time ago when we first started is incredible. I'll be honest with you. It was exciting, It
was.
It was exciting to get an email from you, because you just never know who's listening and how many people are paying attention or even care. Some of the stuff we've said have been widely.
I think it's important, like you said, to start getting some guests also that aren't necessarily like shoe-tuber folks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, get people who either have been in the business forever, like Pete and Matt, or start getting people who do sneakers as a hobby, as opposed to, they're on YouTube and then that's their whole thing is built off sneakers. So I mean, I enjoy it.
I do enjoy these interviews very much.
So with that, we appreciate Matt coming on with Nice Kicks. Obviously, follow Nice Kicks on everything. I'm sure everybody already does. You guys' followers are through the roof.
Follow Matt Halfhill, please. I need to get my followers. I need to get my clout. My clout score is kind of low
double
right
tap.
Now, so
give him some double taps.
Yeah, go ahead and double tap Matt.
Double tap.
Double tap him.
We got a Nice Kicks NMD restock coming soon for day after Christmas.
I think for the Nice Kicks NMD, man, dude, I wish I'd got more of those things, man. I got one pair of those things. Man.
You got one pair?
I had one pair that I wore. And I bought like 6 or 7 pairs to get to friends and whatnot. But I had bought one pair I had got one pair that I wore. I gave them to a friend. And so I have one dead stock pair. And I'm like, man, when I see that price that some people are offering, I'm just like, man, there's so much temptation to just get rid of the damn shoe and like have a mortgage and a half payment taken care of with that. I mean, I half jokingly, I guess I could maybe like pull off a really good replica and probably no one's going to call me out. So I guess I could try that.
Well, that's what happens when you're somebody like you. You could walk out with a replica and nobody's not going to question you.
The founder of Nice Kicks wearing a fake Nice Kicks? No way.
Insane.
That's the only shoe. That's the only shoe ever that I had considered, like, because we talk about like fake customs and how you make a custom of a shoe.
Yeah.
But that's the only shoe I've ever been like, dude, I've seen some dope customs, and like I would maybe custom that as opposed to paying the $1,800 price tag for it.
I mean, at like I saw like $2,000 or $2,500 for the price, and I'm like, man, that's insane.
Is that what it is now?
For my daughter.
I remember when I passed on
like $2,500 on a site. I'm just
my God!
I remember passing on pairs for like
outrageous.
$500 or $600, and like now I'm like, geez, I wish I would have bought a pair for $500 or $600.
One of the hardest things, with that when you see something that's like $600 and you're like, holy shit, that's high. I never would anticipate it going that high, and then. A year later, you're like, fuck, that's 3 times that now.
Like
human race.
Like the 750 Yeezys when they first came out.
Oh, yeah, the yellow human races. I never would have guessed. They're 2,000 now, too. Are you kidding me?
Well,
I know. Exactly.
I know.
It's pretty wild. I mean,
I know earlier in the show, you said you don't like to ask people for things. You sit on sneakers. Well, I'm gonna tell you this: I have no problem asking for a pair of NMD nice kicks. If you ever get the opportunity, I have no problem asking for a pair of those.
There is one hack. There are some nice kicks NMDs right now. I saw online for $40. It's over at the Slipper Company is making those cozy. They're called cozy kicks. That's what.
All right, I don't want those.
Yeah, they made nice kicks NMD, and I actually reached out to them because I was like, "Yo, I'm never somebody to ask." I just hit them up on "Hey, let me know if you'd like to work together on something." Cause it was pretty. I will say, I was very humbled to see nice kicks on a page with OG NMD, and the rest is either tied to Pharrell or Kanye. Right. For me, that's pretty fucking humbling.
That's.
And I was just like, "Yo, let's do something." I'd love to just maybe do a giveaway or something like that. And that was going to be my slide into "Hey, can I get one for free, possibly?" And they didn't even reply back. So I'm like, "Damn, okay."
They didn't even reply back.
The Lord disrespect. No. You better slap with a cease and desist.
Yeah. Oh, all right, Matt. We actually about to get out of here in the studio. But we appreciate you coming on, man. This
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great conversation. I mean, we like to let guests come on here and talk. Like I said, and you talked and you threw out some knowledge and some gems. And I know our listeners are going to enjoy it. And I can't wait to put this out tonight. So,
actually, I just thought,
man, thank you guys so much. It's absolutely been a pleasure.
One question to leave on. What's the next shoe you're looking forward to getting?
That's a good question.
Fuck, man. Shit. What's coming out next weekend? I don't even know. I need to go look on the site.
I think the next big one is those frozen blue Yeezy V2s is the next hype release.
I definitely will not be getting those. I think that you know what? If there's one shoe I really, really want right now, I would say, you know what? I'd say the Jordan 1 in that wheat colorway. I'm waiting for that thing to hit the sale price.
So
I really want.
I need that shoe.
Has to go on sale.
I saw it on Saturday. The materials are really nice, but I think it's completely unnecessary. Buy a Timberland.
I love that a man that started a website for $8 and grew it into a multi-million-dollar business still waits for things to go on sale.
You have to.
It's just me.
Hey, so what's the last thing? Okay, real quick then. What's your ultimate grail, and what's your last shoe that you did buy?
Okay, ultimate grail somehow went missing in a divorce, and it was a pair of Air Jordan 11s that were practiced in by Michael Jordan in 1996 and autographed. Wow. Those just disappeared somehow in the move. And then, so that, I don't know where the fuck those are. Somebody came up on them and, God bless them, have them. I know I'm never going to get that one again. Ultimate grail, other than that shoe, would be, I would say, Air Jordan 1, man. Air Jordan 1. Oh, no, you know what? I will say it. Nike Air Assailant. The whole reason Nice Kicks exists is because of that shoe.
The Assailant?
And do we have studio time? Can I tell you the full story, how it started Nice Kicks?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so, grade 9 Matt, 1999, here we are in Fresno, California. My best friend, Brent Knight, and this girl I had a crush on, both had this Agassi. It's a white leather Assailant. Wanted that shoe so bad, could not find it locally. There was only a Tennis Pro Shop and Sports Authority that had just opened there that had the shoe, and they didn't have my size, so I missed out on it. I get the black and blue colorway for my back-to-school shoe in grade 10. Only problem is the fucking air bubble was broken in the right heel. So I had to return the shoe. It was the first time I ever got my mom to spend over $90 for a pair of shoes. They were $94.99 before tax. So I get it, but because she had paid with cash instead of her card, they wouldn't give her a refund. They gave her store credit, which Mom was not feeling about that either. So we held on to that store credit. My family then decides to move to the Caribbean that winter in December, and the story had just come out that Just for Feet had filed for their first round of bankruptcy. So my mom's like, let's get to that store and let's buy you a pair of shoes before we leave the country, because it's probably not even going to be here when we get back. So I get lucky, and it's a pair of Air Jordan 14 Last Shot in my, a half size too big, size 11.5, that I am able to get. It's my first pair of Jordans in my life. I'm like, oh my God, I've made it. And I wear those shoes like crazy in the Caribbean. They were my dress. They were the shoes I could wear to school because they were pretty much all black. And the schoolmaster was fine with not like just a little low. He wasn't tripping on that. So I wore those, just wore them to death. I played so much ball in those. I did everything in them. And my family moves to Canada, and I take a job at Athletes World. And while I'm at the job, it's about like 3 months in, I hear about Nike Canada's return policy that if an air bubble is broken, they have like a 3-year warranty on the shoe, and they'd issue you a comparable shoe. And I asked my manager, like, hey, if I get a shoe, can I exchange it? He's like, yeah, totally. He just make sure it's a shoe that we sell in store. So I call him up and I'm like, please, I need the Ginger Jordan 16s so badly because I'm only allowed to wear this shoe to work. Like, that was the lie I told. So I get the Gingers. They retail for $239 Canadian, and I trade them in for a pair of black and red Shox R4s and a dry fit sock because the Shox were only $229. And I was going to wear the R4s. It was full intent to wear them. And then my girlfriend at the time thought they looked really weird and said, you can't wear those. So I listened to her and I didn't wear them. And I decided after failed attempts to sell them locally to other people that, you know what, I'm just going to have to sell them on eBay. I'm just going to have to. I had been buying and selling musical instruments for years on eBay. I'm like, I'm going to sell these on eBay. It'll be my first time selling shoes. I sell them. And my manager hears that I sold the shoes and he thought that was really awesome. And about a month and a half later, I get a call from him. He's like, hey, Matt, you remember how you sold those Shox on eBay? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, we got a bunch of Shox for half price. You want to come down and check them out? He's like, I'll let you buy them. And if they don't sell, you can just return them. I'm like thinking to myself, well, shit, I've got nothing to lose here. I'm not taking any risk. So I buy like 6 or 8 pairs of those from the clearance table, sell them on eBay that night. That triggers something in the system. We get everything from British Columbia sent to that store. I buy all those, sell them online. Then we get everything in the nation sent there. And I was tired of paying eBay fees after like selling 50 or 60 pairs of shoes, but I also told myself at this time that I'm like, if somebody walks around and they ask you, hey, like, where'd you get those shoes? They're not going to say from Matt Halfhill. They're going to say from eBay. Right. Yeah. So not only was I paying all these eBay fees, I also was not building a brand at the same time. And I'm like, I want people to tell people they got them from me. So I'm like, I need to build a website. So I give my mom, like my brother and I, what's it called? Think of all these names on a piece of paper. We write them all out. And the one word the one phrase that was there that I liked the most, and it was the one phrase I heard in the 3 countries I had lived in at that time in my life, was nice kicks. So I gave my mom $8 to use her credit card and buy nicekicks.com. And that's how it all started. But the pair of shoes, the Shox that I had resold, I got as an exchange for the Jordan 16 Gingers. The Jordan 16 Gingers I got in exchange from the Air Jordan 14s. The Air Jordan 14s I got in exchange from the busted pair of Nike Air Assailants. The Nike Air Assailants were the consolation prize to the white pair that I wanted because a girl I had a crush on wore the Nike Air Assailants.
And now we have nice kicks.
That was actually an entertaining story. That was a good story. 1 pair of shoes.
All right, so I guess my final question then is, you weren't
a lot of final questions.
Well, I mean, it brings up something else every story he tells. I thought your family was from Canada, so you guys aren't Canadian. You just moved around a lot.
No,
then?
So I'm American. Yeah,
okay, all right.
I am Canadian too, but I am American. I was born and raised in Fresno, and then I lived in all
right, another California person. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Yep, that's that.
I was gonna go to Fresno for college too, Bulldogs. So that was a school I visited for. Don't wave your hand at me.
Don't say you visited for basketball. Those are lies.
Facts.
Those are lies.
No,
let's go play. We'll play.
There's no way you could beat me in basketball.
Anytime.
Anyways, Matt, we appreciate you coming on.
And if he's in Phoenix, hit us up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll buy you a beer or whatever. I don't know what your vices are.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it's not crack. We
Chicken
won't buy you
wings.
that. But
yep. So if you're ever in town, look us up. Actually, we'll definitely want to hang out and kick it if we're in California or wherever, Texas, wherever you might be. We'll definitely.
San Antonio, when you guys have a team that likes to get whooped on out here. So if you ever want to come see the Suns get their ass kicked, just give me a call.
Our team likes to get whooped on in every state.
Yeah. We just got beat by 30 by the Sixers tonight.
And no, not tonight. They played Detroit tonight, didn't they?
Or Detroit, sorry.
Yeah, so
Detroit beat us by 30 tonight.
Anyways, all right, Matt, we got to get out of the studio. We appreciate you, and we'll hit you up later.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
all right, man.
Later. Wait, you got to do the thing.
That's a sneak dish. I was already taking my mic off.
So you got to do the thing.